The second thing you're not responsible for is how people perceive you. You can say everything right, and people will still think you're wrong. You can speak the truth, and people will still think you're lying. You can try to explain yourself, and people will still misunderstand you. You are not responsible for how people perceive you. They might base it off a first impression, something someone else said, something they heard. If someone chooses to perceive you based on another person's opinion of you, that means they don't want to get to know you. Let me say that again. If someone bases their perception of you based on how another person perceives you, they don't actually want to get to know you. If someone told you that someone else was lazy, disorganized, and you take their word for it, it means you don't want to make the time or the energy to actually get to know that person. Because chances are, if you did get to know them, you might realize that just like all of us, they're lazy in some ways, but they're organized in other ways. So if we're using people as our shortcuts to learn about people, then guess what? We don't want to deeply get to know that person. So you're not responsible for how people perceive you because people will perceive you through all sorts of ways. Think about this for a second. What's the one word someone would use to describe you if they saw you but didn't speak to you? Second question, how would someone describe you in one word if they spoke to you for a few minutes? Now, imagine if someone spoke to you for a few hours. I'm guessing there's a big difference in how someone perceives you when they see you and don't speak to you, when they speak to you for a few minutes, and when they speak to you for a few hours. That's definitely true for me, right? I feel like if someone saw me, they may have a certain perception. If someone spoke to me for a few minutes, they'll have another perception. And if someone spent hours or months or years with me, they'll have a different perception. How can you possibly be responsible for how people perceive you when the way people see you is the way they see the world? The way people see you is how they often look at themselves. The way people see you is how they've felt seen or unseen in the past. The way people see you is based on someone else they met that was kind of like you. There are so many touch points as to how someone deciphers and decides how they perceive you. You could try and be really nice and someone will say they're trying too hard. You could be a little standoffish and people will say, oh, they're really distant and absent. You could try and be really interested and curious and people will say they ask too many questions. You could be a little more introverted and people say, oh, well, they suck the energy out of the room. How people perceive your silence is different. Some people perceive it as a strength, as a power. Some people perceive it as a weakness. I really understood this when I lived in the monastery and we were exposed to this idea of humility. And humility was seen as the number one quality that humans could aspire for. But today, when people demonstrate humility, people often think of it as low self-esteem, or they think of it as low self-worth. They don't value it. They value someone who's got a bit of swag, who's got a bit of confidence. But for the monks, humility is the greatest sign of confidence. The ability to accept what you know and what you don't know, to be honest about your strengths and your weaknesses, to be clear about what you're good at and what you're bad at. That's reality.